every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at WEWE headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Democratic Republic of Congo on Thursday confirmed 2 new cases of Ebola, including one far from the center of the outbreak. The provincial health minister, Eugene Nzazu Salita, said the cases were found in Katwa and Magurejipa, which is about 150 kilometers west of the city of Butembo, where all the previous cases have been clustered. One of the new cases was a known contact of another patient. Investigations are underway to know how he may have become infected. Congo has now confirmed a total of 6 Ebola cases and 2 deaths since it declared a resurgence of the disease on February 7th. Nigeria's defense minister prompted criticism on Thursday for urging Nigerians not to be cowards and to stand up to armed bandits. The comments by Bashir Salihi Magashi, a retired army major, came on Wednesday, hours after gunmen abducted 42 people, including 27 students. In this report, Soraya Ali has more details.
18-year-old Caleb Samaila managed to escape when unidentified gunmen launched an overnight attack on a boarding school in north-central Nigeria. 1 student was killed and 42 people, including 27 students, were kidnapped, according to the state governor. Caleb recounts his experience.
I was sleeping.
That day I was sleeping in the hostel. Then I heard the kidnappers come to our hostel and start shooting their guns. I came out and saw them, then I ran and jumped over the fence. There were other students too, running everywhere.
The state governor said the assailants stormed the government science secondary school in Niger State at around 2 a.m. and overwhelmed the school's security detail. It is not immediately clear who was responsible. Kidnappings for ransom by armed groups are common across many northern Nigerian states. This attack comes 2 months after gunmen stormed a secondary school in northwestern Katsina state and kidnapped nearly 350 boys who were subsequently rescued by security forces. Militant Islamist group Boko Haram and a branch of Islamic State also carry out abductions in the region. About 100 of the 270 schoolgirls abducted by Boko Haram in 2014 are still missing. After Wednesday's attack, the Niger State governor ordered the immediate closure of boarding schools in the region, and President Muhammadu Buhari dispatched security chiefs to coordinate rescue operations, according to his spokesperson. But the recent attacks have raised concern about rising violence by armed gangs and Islamist insurgents and fueled criticism of Buhari's handling of national security.
Soraya Ali of Reuters filed that report. Suspected Islamists killed at least 18 people in attacks in northern Burkina Faso and central Mali on Wednesday and Thursday, according to government and security sources. Attacks by militants with links to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State are common in the 2 West African countries, where Islamists have expanded their reach in recent years, despite the presence of 15,000 UN peacekeepers and 5,100 French troops. In Burkina Faso, 8 people were killed and 9 were wounded when residents were ambushed on their way to a market near the border with Niger. In Mali, at least 9 people were killed and others were missing or wounded in a spate of attacks on a village in the central Mopti region, according to government sources. Paul Rusesabagina, a humanitarian and activist who is depicted in the Oscar-nominated film Hotel Rwanda, appeared in court on Wednesday accused of supporting rebel groups. His family and human rights groups say he was kidnapped by the Rwandan government and they are demanding his immediate release. WEWE Salem Solomon has the story.
Paul Rusesabagina was one of 20 defendants appearing before a judge in a courtroom outside Kigali Wednesday. The man, hailed as a hero for saving hundreds of lives during the 1994 Rwandan genocide, is accused of sponsoring terrorism in the country for his support of an opposition party and rebel group. Family members and advocates claim he was effectively kidnapped in September when he boarded a private plane in Dubai and was flown against his will to the Rwandan capital.
I would like to insist on the fact that Rusesabagina is in Rwanda illegally. He did not come following an extradition. He didn't even come of his own free will. He found himself in Rwanda against his will.
During the proceedings at the Supreme Court in Kimwarura, Rusesabagina insisted the court did not have jurisdiction because he is a Belgian citizen and was unlawfully abducted. Rwandan President Paul Kagame has defended the means used to arrest Rusesabagina.
There was no kidnap, there was no any wrongdoing in the process of his getting here. He got here on the basis of what he believed and wanted to do.
The trial has prompted outrage around the world. 37 U.S. senators and representatives signed a letter to Kagame calling for Rusesabagina's release on humanitarian grounds as he is a cancer survivor. They expressed grave concerns about the extrajudicial way he was brought to the country. The U.S. State Department also said it is closely monitoring the situation and has engaged the Rwandan government at its highest levels.
We continue to underscore that the legal process adjudicating the charges against Mr. Rusesabagina must be fair, transparent, respect the rule of law, and be consistent with Rwanda's own international human rights obligations and commitments.
Two of Rusesabagina's daughters, as well as a team of lawyers and supporters, watched the proceedings online and spoke about it afterward. Brian Endless, who has worked with Rusesabagina's foundation, called it a show trial.
These are defendants who are on trial for their lives and possibly life imprisonment. Most importantly, there were no lawyers next to them to assist in their defense. Their lawyers were kept in the back of the room. And just the physical dynamics of that were kind of incredible to see.
Rusesabagina's daughter, who lives outside of the country, said she has been receiving harassing phone calls and text messages from someone claiming to be her father's guard in jail. He told her he wanted to help her father escape, a ploy she believes is intended to add charges to Rusesabagina or even give authorities an excuse to execute him.
But we just know that this is a method that they use, and it's very inhumane considering that the condition that our family is in and the worries we have for our father. We will get our father out of that prison legally, not through these methods.
Rusesabagina did not enter a plea during his court appearance on Wednesday. The judge is expected to rule on the question of whether the court has jurisdiction on February 26. Salam Solomon, VOA News, Washington.
The Ugandan military on Thursday sentenced 7 soldiers to up to 90 days in jail after they were convicted of assaulting journalists who were covering an event outside a UN office in the capital, Kampala. Punishment of security personnel for abuse against journalists is rare, and attacks on reporters have escalated in recent months amid a crackdown on supporters of opposition leader Bobi Wine. On Wednesday, soldiers descended on a group of journalists outside the UN High Commissioner of Human Rights Office, beating and injuring at least 20 of them. 4 of those assaulted sustained serious injuries, including to the head. Military Chief General David Muhoozi had apologized for the incident and vowed to punish the culprits. In North Africa, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune on Thursday announced the dissolution of the lower house of parliament and called for early legislative elections. Addressing the nation on state television, Tebboune announced a government reshuffle in the next 24 to 48 hours and ordered the release of 60 detainees of a protest movement that had forced his predecessor Abdelaziz Bouteflika from power in 2019. The current lawmakers of the lower house had been elected for 5 years in May 2017, with Bouteflika's allies having an overwhelming majority. Tebboune said the dissolution decision was part of reforms after amendments to the constitution in November last year, aimed at giving parliament more powers. Tebboune, a former prime minister under Bouteflika, was elected amid protests demanding the departure of the whole ruling elite, with many of them boycotting the vote as they saw it as unfair and not transparent. Several activists have been in detention since the protests broke out on February 22nd. Gunfire and rockets exploded on Friday in Mogadishu as Somali government forces clashed with opposition supporters angered by delayed elections. Video sent to Reuters from anti-government demonstration showed civilians in face masks accompanied by friendly soldiers scattering before gunfire erupted. Reuters journalists nearby could hear intermittent gunfire as well as heavier explosions. Somalia's former president Sheikh Shari Sheikh Ahmed had accused government troops of attacking a hotel where he was staying with another former president ahead of Friday's rally. Somalia's Minister of Security Hassan Hundbe Jamale accused the opposition of starting the fighting. The World Health Organization on Thursday urged nations producing COVID-19 vaccines not to distribute them unilaterally, but to donate them to the global COVAX scheme to ensure fairness. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus made the plea as China hashes out agreements across Africa. Russia distributes shots in Latin America, and the European Union eyes giving vaccines to poorer countries, all outside of the COVAX facility. Tedros said nations striking one-on-one deals undermine COVAX's goal of equitable access. He added that the WHO scheme can even accommodate requests from governments that prefer to give their donations to certain countries because they are neighbors or because they have some relationship. The Zimbabwean government on Thursday started to roll out its COVID-19 inoculation program following the arrival of the first consignment of the Sinopharm vaccines donated by the Chinese government. Zimbabwean Vice President and Minister of Health and Child Care Constantino Chiwenga became the first citizen to receive a Sinopharm jab. Other officials from the health ministry also joined a group of frontline health workers at Wilkins Hospital in Harare to receive their shots as part of the government's efforts to encourage people to take the vaccine. The first batch of the 200,000 Sinopharm doses, which arrived in Harare February 15, were distributed across medical centers in the country's 10 provinces, and nationwide distribution will commence next Monday. People the world over have questions about the safety of COVID-19 vaccines, and some are reluctant to get immunized. WEWE's Carol Pearson helps debunk some common myths about the COVID vaccines.
Scientists around the world have rushed to find a vaccine to protect against the virus that's caused the COVID-19 pandemic. The virus has claimed more than 2 million lives and infected more than 100 million people. Yet despite the proven protection that COVID vaccines offer, people still have doubts about getting one.
I don't know what to believe, to either believe the news, believe social media, believe whatever is out there,
I'm a little bit skeptical because I want to know, how is it going to affect my immune system?
I don't see why I would take a vaccine for something that I may not ever get.
The skepticism is just as real in sprawling cities like Los Angeles and in the small towns of West Virginia.
The bad part about it is if it goes wrong and you do get a virus from it, then what?
Some vaccines are made from weakened or dead viruses, but experts say there's no need to worry. Dr. Tosin Goji of the Cleveland Clinic was trained in infectious diseases.
No, it's not going to give you COVID. It's not a live vaccine. You're not going to get a COVID infection.
Although the vaccines are new, Dr. Goji says the technology used to make them is not.
It was initially put together for cancer patients. So it's not like we just found this technology within the past year for COVID. It's something that has been in place. And when the opportunity came, it was like an aha moment, like we can use this technology for this.
The World Health Organization has a web page that addresses the myths and concerns about the vaccines and the virus itself, including who can get COVID-19. The answer, everyone. Can certain foods like garlic protect against COVID? What about dietary supplements or vitamins? The World Health Organization says there's no evidence they can. And then there's a belief that these vaccines can change your genetic code.
It will destroy your DNA and you'll become part of like a transhuman because they're putting nanoparticles into it.
The Pfizer, Moderna, and Sputnik vaccines are mRNA vaccines, or messenger RNA vaccines. Remember the spike protein on the COVID virus? These vaccines teach our cells how to make a protein, or even a piece of a protein, that triggers an immune response inside our bodies.
It's not changing your DNA. People think, oh, it's going to change me. And that's why I take the pictures. It's not integrating itself into your DNA. No, it's not changing who you are.
The World Health Organization is calling for massive public education campaigns to address people's concerns and their fears. Experts say vaccines, along with prevention efforts, keeping hands clean, wearing masks, and social distancing, will put an end to the pandemic, but only if people follow these practices. Carol Pearson, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a new music video by Rwandan breakthrough artist Stanza Muvandimwe. Stay with us. Welcome back to Africa 54. On Thursday, Democrats introduced a bill based on the Biden administration's immigration priorities that would provide a path to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants. Meanwhile, officials will begin processing Central American asylum seekers who were turned back and forced to remain in Mexico under a controversial Trump-era policy that was revoked. White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara reports.
On Friday, U.S. officials will begin to process up to 25,000 migrants turned away under the Trump-era migrant protection protocols. Good news for asylum seekers at this shelter on the Texas border with Mexico.
Our miracle is about to come true. We are very happy about it.
On Thursday, Democratic lawmakers introduced a bill to add resources to handle the backlog of asylum seekers. The U.S. Citizenship Act will also increase caps for green card lotteries, change the word alien to non-citizen in U.S. laws, and provide a path to citizenship for 11 million undocumented immigrants.
So this is a values-based but also economically beneficial. And as I have always said, immigrants coming to our country, with newcomers coming with their hopes and dreams and aspirations, with their optimism and determination to make the future better for their families, well, those are American traits.
Aimed to counteract 4 years of Donald Trump's hardline border policies, the bill is unlikely to receive enough Republican support in the Senate.
It is a very radical bill in that it greatly opens the border to additional waves of illegal immigration. It makes the government a participant in illegal immigration. And then it also eliminates grounds for removal on the back end. So not only would more illegal aliens be coming into the U.S., we would not be deporting very many.
The bill reflects immigration priorities that President Joe Biden introduced hours after he was sworn in, but a lack of bipartisan support could force it to be broken up into individual pieces, including provisions for essential workers who work in industries critical during the pandemic, such as food supply and agriculture, and for dreamers or people who came illegally as children. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki acknowledged that Democrats may need to compromise, but signaled that Biden wants broad immigration reform legislation.
The president feels that all of these requirements that are in the bill, these components of the bill, are what makes it comprehensive. They all need to be addressed. That's why he proposed them together.
The administration says it is committed to humane immigration policies. But with Trump-era pandemic-related restrictions still in place, the majority of migrants at the border will still be turned away.
What we need to do is take a look at the situation at the border for migrants and approach it from a science-related viewpoint and not from a political perspective designed to turn away migrants. We hope that the president will relax the restrictions at the border, which public health experts are said are not necessary, because it's important to resume asylum processing while people are desperate.
Earlier this month, Biden announced an increase in annual refugee admissions, which fell to a historic low under Trump.
Up to 125,000 persons for the first full fiscal year of the Biden-Harris administration.
Immigration reform is a key campaign promise for Biden, one that he is eager to pursue while Democrats hold the majority in Congress. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
NASA and the United States took a multinational party at Mars to the surface of the red planet Thursday as the Perseverance rover successfully landed after leaving the company of spacecrafts from the UAE and China in orbit. VOA's Arashar Basadi reports challenges for the rover and potentially a treasure trove of discoveries await.
Release. 7 months after launching from Florida's Cape Canaveral, NASA's Perseverance rover completed a space journey of nearly 500 million kilometers to the surface of Mars. The mission ahead? To search the red planet for signs of ancient life. For now, NASA scientists like Lori Glaze are breathing a sigh of relief after the perilous landing.
It is definitely the most dangerous thing we have to do, and the most challenging thing is entering the Mars atmosphere. Mars atmosphere is very thin. It's about 1% of Earth's atmosphere, so it's just enough atmosphere that we get really hot coming in, but not enough atmosphere to slow us down, so very challenging.
NASA aimed to park its rover at the Jezero crater that scientists believe was once filled with water, an essential prerequisite for life as we know it. Perseverance is the biggest vehicle NASA has to rove on Mars. On board is the helicopter Ingenuity. Together, they will survey the Martian surface and collect samples that could answer an age-old question: did life ever exist beyond Earth? But that's not all, according to NASA's Thomas Zurbuchen.
What's so exciting about this, it's not only the landing and the investigations, which is the search for extinct ancient life from a time where life arose on Earth. If everything goes exactly like we hope, late in the 20s, we're going to go pick up the samples this vehicle is collecting and bringing it back to Earth for the first round trip to the planet Mars.
Perseverance is scheduled to spend at least 1 Martian year or 2 Earth years exploring the landing site region of the ancient river delta in a lake that once filled the Jezero crater. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
In our entertainment segment, Stanza Mvandimwe is a breakthrough artist from Kigali, Rwanda. In his new self-produced music video, Vumilia, a Swahili word for persevere, he says the song encourages all to remain calm and strong during these terrible times of COVID-19.
Respect man. Numviseko wamburiwe imbarara. Numviseko wamburiwe imbarara. Vumili, vumili alia. Vumili, vumili alia. Vumili, vumili alia. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Numviseko amanitse imbabura, numviseko amanitse imbabura. Vumili, vumili alia, vumili, vumili alia. Vumili, vumili alia, vumili. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Vumili, vumili alia, vumili, vumili alia. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Kushomana azero di koroma. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Amagara masi magara kuma. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Como kuna kabukatira. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Kubiba bika kurumbira. Sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca, sin peruca. Sin peruca, 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 sin peruca. Sin Perú, 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 sin Perú.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.
Ili kuwa mwanafamilia bora wa Global TV, usisahau kusubscribe, like, kushare na kucomment. Baada ya kusubscribe, bonyeza alama ya kengele ili kupata taarifa kwa kila video inayopanda Global TV Online.